Should be live on the interwebs at the moment. I just hit the go live button. Do a couple seconds of testing the mic, testing the chat, see if anybody wanders in here on this early Christmas Eve stream today. Final, maybe final live stream of the year. At least for these Wednesday ones that I've kind of been doing. New Year's Eve is a week from today. I'll be out of town. I don't really know if I will hop on the air or not. I'd always like to. I like hopping on and doing these streams. And I've got kind of a wacky topic today. Nothing really, I can kind of connect it back to Shakespeare in my own sort of personal way, because I've mentioned some of this stuff before on the channel. But I guess without further ado, what are we talking about today? Like I said, it's a wacky one. I've got a strange concept in my mind, and it's really more for fun. No, I would say don't take it too seriously, or maybe do. But today we're talking about, as per the thumbnail and the title in a sense, and you might have no idea what I'm even talking about. What are we talking about? We're talking about the Phyrexian Invasion. And in case you don't know, the Phyrexians are a faction from the game called Magic the Gathering. And it's a card game that I enjoy playing. Chance is also a Magic the Gathering player. We don't collect like we used to back in the day, about not 10 years ago. Maybe it's kind of, yeah, maybe 10 years ago we first started getting into it, actually. And yeah, so it's something that I've always enjoyed playing on the side. But I'll connect it to why it's also relevant, because it's almost like what I'm gonna say is that it's like a meta explanation or recapitulation of like what's happening in Magic's universe is also, I argue, happening to ours in a sense, okay, or some of the same spiritual underpinnings or something along those lines is connecting these two. Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna connect this goofy dark fantasy world, or used to be dark fantasy world, events in their world, and say like, hey, I think the same thing's happening here. And of course, that makes sense. People are inspired by what they see in their real life, and so yeah, why wouldn't that bleed into a card game? But where am I gonna take this? I'll just do my original shout out as we let people wander in here, because here's how I'll connect Shakespeare to Magic the Gathering. In case you don't know, should I just pull up a Magic the Gathering card first? Probably everyone's seen the what a Magic the Gathering card looks like. You got the famous backing. I got my deck, one of my decks right here. There you go. Because I was gonna pull out the card that I was gonna slap up here on the screen here in a second. And this kind of came about through a synchronicity, which I was like documenting here, right? But when we were doing like the first year, I think we were doing this channel, which is all about kind of a bunch of Shakespeare related material, and Shakespeare is a sort of nexus or whatever. And Chance, my co-host that I usually do these things with, he's the only other person I really, I play Magic with. Okay, so the only person I talk to Shakespeare a lot, and the only person I talk to about Magic as well, right? And we, I was trying to downsize collection, and I had this concept where in Magic, I'm going to try and throw up some pictures here, some cards. So you got little monsters and ability cards that do different things or whatever. And so they have different colors, okay? So there's 5 different colors in Magic. And that's how you personalize your deck, by picking your favorite colors, which sort of have different strategies and weaknesses and strengths or whatever. And so I had this idea of making a black dragon deck, because there's not a whole lot of black dragons. There's plenty of red ones. There's probably equal, if not more, green ones or green red ones. But yeah, black dragons, not a very common card you'll kind of find. And so I was like, yo, I'm gonna go. I already had some of the rare black dragons, and so I was like, yo, I'm going to go get every single black dragon that's out there in Magic's history and like shove them into one deck and see if I can make it work. Because some of them are not super great cards. Some of them are, I'm having to kind of put quote unquote suboptimal cards like some of these dragon cards just so I can have my theme do its thing. But I was like, black dragons, like that's what I like. That's what I'm gonna do. And I was pretty much nearing the end of collecting all said printed black dragons. And, it was right around the time we were kind of getting to Thomas Dekker and talking about Thomas Nash a lot, and especially relating Troilus and Cressida, because Thomas Dekker also has a Troilus and Cressida play like Shakespeare. And finding out, so once again, we were already talking about all that stuff, right? That was kind of fresh in our minds. And then, I've been always a long time Magic player, but I was trying to finish this deck. So I was like, all right, I go on this website called Scryfall, and I find, the last black dragon that I hadn't collected, okay? Old card. Do they have the year when this comes out? It'll be on the card. 2003, 2011. So this card's from 2011. That seems... I feel like that's not correct. Oh, maybe it's this one? The Portal one? Yeah. So 1997. Okay, so that makes a lot more sense. Because, yeah, this card is... For all intensive modern game design, is pretty bad. Like 7 mana for a 5/4 who just makes one opponent discard a card. It's pretty bad. But I was like, yo, it's a rare. It's a black dragon. It's going in the deck, okay? And so yeah, this is like the main version of the card. But over here on the side, I'll show you in a second that they will show alternate printing. So sometimes they'll reprint a card and have a new artist or bling it up somehow, right? And so some years after this initial card was printed, I was like, oh, they have another edition of this card from the Vault version, okay? And it's this one right here. And that's when my jaw dropped after clicking on this card, right? Because this is like the last black dragon I need to collect. And, if you look at the first card, oh, let me go back. If you look at the first card, you see how it just has like their little ability right here, their text. And sometimes at the bottom in italics, they'll have what's called flavor text. And it's kind of like text from the in-game world of Magic that explains the card or gives a little more context of the card or whatever. Because sometimes the cards are actually telling a story. So in, original Eben Dragon card, no flavor text. Okay? But I was like, oh, well, they have another version. Let's go check out that one, all right? So here it is. This is the From the Vault Dragons edition, okay? And it's in foil, so that means it's shiny. It's actually the card that's in this deck here. This is my favorite deck to play. It's actually in this deck, and if you look at the bottom, look, they added some flavor text here. What's that? The dragon wing of night o'erspreads the earth. Troilus and Cressida, William Shakespeare. And I was like, what the heck? I've been playing Magic for a while, and I had never seen any flavor text for a card that's outside of Magic, let alone anything that's William Shakespeare, of course. And it's so funny because once again, yeah, Troilus and Cressida was the thing that we were definitely talking about a lot of the time. Oh, Dekker is Troilus and Cressida, and Shakespeare is Troilus and Cressida. What's going on? Is there any connection there? I gotta go get this last Black Dragon card. Oh, look, okay. What the heck? Troilus and Cressida on a freaking random Magic card? All right. And it's pretty gnarly line too, right? The dragon wing of night overspreads the earth, and so. Yeah, I definitely picked that card up, and it is now right here in my hands. I'll show you on camera another day. But, so yeah, a little bit of Shakespeare, a little bit of Magic the Gathering, not totally separate. But that's me shoehorning in my some Shakespeare-related stuff. So, yeah, y'all let me know if anyone else plays Magic out there, or if... And, there's a way I bet you could actually search on Scryfall, that website we were on that I was showing the Magic cards, and you could probably look up through all the flavor text, and I wonder if we could find another Shakespeare card in there. But moving right along, because I want to talk about Magic a little more, and I'm going to go, I'm going to do more of my, soapboxing, I guess, or something, where it's, I kind of have ideas that are floating around in my head, and then I'll try to connect it maybe to a conspiracy world or Shakespeare or something like that. But let me see where I want to try to go with this. And like I said, so at the top I was saying that Magic's game world, Magic's little story world is going to explain what's happening in our world. And maybe I'm just, going to sound like old fart, anti-modernist type person, or, super traditionalist or something along those lines, and I think that's not quite right. I think that there's a room to blend properly between those two polarities, if there are even so. But I think there's I don't know how to do it without just sounding like I'm complaining, but yeah, there's this like concept that I see nowadays where more of these areas that we live in and all these stretches and swaths of land are getting chopped up and developed, and now every single intersection on the highway is the exact same sort of squarish, brutalist, or same facade building of faux white brick or whatever, and it's Verizon, a Chipotle, and two McDonald's if you're unfortunate, and yeah, it's just like the exact same copy and paste corporate stuff all the way down, especially where I'm living down here in the Texas area. And yeah, it just sort of like hurts me to kind of see, I'll admit, yeah, I'm a little bit of a bleeding heart when it comes to like nature and stuff like that. But I think that we people as modern people are dealing with a different concept, right? It's one thing to kind of deforest or overhunt, right? That's already been going on for a while, like, yeah, it's not, none of that is probably done with enough long-term consideration in mind, right? But yeah, setting aside even just overhunting and over and whatnot, and over deforestation or blah 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 blah. But now we've and maybe this has always been a thing, right? So yeah, I'm just checking myself as I go along so people can't naysay me. But stuff like this, right, where we got landfills and other nasty contaminants that are pouring in everywhere as the byproduct of industry, and sometimes it's localized and contained. But then you're getting stuff like, what's going on with in Palestine, Ohio, right, where they're transporting hazardous materials and then crashes or whatever, and then that stuff seeps into everywhere, or whatever's going on with Michigan water, what was it, Detroit water and stuff like that, or Flint, I'm sorry. Just it's byproducts of industry seeping in everywhere, right? And that you can hear a capitalist or modern sort of person being like, well, sometimes this stuff's got to happen, if you want to have your air conditioning, blah, they run through the list of so-called achievements, right? If you want that, you gotta have air conditioning, or if you want to have your phone, and blah 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 blah, right? And it's like, yeah, all that stuff's well and good, but yeah, I don't know, like, is it worth poisoning the rest of humanity down the line for those conveniences? And that's where the tension is probably coming from in this conversation. Like, how do we maintain some sort of quote unquote progress without while having in mind, the effects of such a thing. So yeah, I don't know, just this toxic black sludge stuff getting poured in everywhere, and just keep seeing more of these. And I'm getting a little political here when I'm talking about data centers being built everywhere, right? They provide little to no jobs. They suck. I saw, unfortunately, like an AI generated picture, but to make your AI generated picture, it takes a certain amount of water to essentially cool the graphics, the GPUs on these servers that you're using for ChatGPT or whatever, Midjourney, yada yada yada, Sora. And that it's using, they have to use water, and everyone's hearing about this now, right? But yeah, they have to use a bunch of water to cool off these chips that generate your generative images, and it's ruining water pressure and prices in the areas that these data centers are being built next to. They're also, consuming huge million gigawatts of electricity, and also doing the exact same effect too, offloading those costs to the expenses to the people around it, to the other taxpayers, just so you can make a talking cat video. Like, are we really thinking this out? That's kind of what I'm trying to beg here, right? Are we really thinking this stuff out properly? And, all right, so yeah, Albert, you're just complaining, blah, 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 just, get on with it. Okay, all right, I'll do that. Like I said, what we're talking about magic, and why I think it sort of explains some of this phenomenon. And I've also got a German philosopher guy that I'm going to read here in a second, too. Maybe I'll read him first, and maybe spicy fellow Ludwig Klages, German philosopher, kind of a. It's funny, like, I would see where a lot of these people would also, call them all the same name. Like, I've read Evola on here, and I've talked about Evola, and people got names for him too. And people would call these two guys the same thing, but that at the same time, I totally see where Klagas is talking about one thing in very, very different contrast to are disagreeing with Evola, specifically on these Pelasgian pre-Hellenic, pre-Greek peoples. But I won't digress there for now. But yeah, let me just read this line that he has, and this from this speech or essay called "Man and Earth," and he's talking about this idea of what has caused humans to be so prolific in our overexploitation of everything. And he's definitely Klagas is definitely an Arcadian or Arcadiist, if maybe I could use another adjective word. He's definitely rose-tinted glasses about the pastoralist nomad type life and all that sort of stuff, right? So just keep that in mind in case you need to contextualize some of his ideas. But let me just read this little idea here. Therefore, spirit, which emerged from a condition of powerless knowledge, Prometheus is in chains, while Heracles is free, now penetrates the will, and in murderous deeds, which have constituted, without interruption, the history of nations ever since, has revealed a truth that heretofore seemed to be merely a notion, that a power from outside our cosmos had broken into the sphere of life. So yeah, I like that last line there, that an outside power of our cosmos has broken into the sphere of life and is some other aspect of, is in our will, some maybe subconscious or even archetypal subconscious, something is slowly working humanity into a sort of self-mutilation, suicidal position, essentially, right? And he calls it mammonism, right? This idea of like worth and money, which has its own rabbit hole we could probably go down. But yeah, I think that just that last line to really think about, because something about our human rationality, the modern man's rationality, Evola and probably Nietzsche would all kind of understand what I'm saying here, we're kind of like deluding ourselves once again. I don't know how someone can like look at this and be like, oh, we'll figure it out eventually. And it's just like, no, how come we were not thinking about it prior to this going on, right? And I'm not trying to figure out how to exactly point fingers at. We can just point fingers at ourselves. And yeah, I don't know how we could ignore this in the long run. And yeah, just all the sea turtles out there and all the sucking plastic rings and all that bad stuff and straws up their noses and blah 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 blah. And apparently, they talk about whales not singing anymore, and it's because we've sort of littered and I say littered, not even littered, but we've like set up all these like sonar bases and stuff down there everywhere in different spots, measure waves this or track ships that. But they have constant sonar pulses and sound pulses essentially constantly going off, right? And whales, they use these like sound waves that travel like X hundreds or unfathomable miles or whatever that they use to talk to each other, right? They can like send sound waves at long distances, and yet they're essentially being interrupted by all this technology that we're kind of throwing around everywhere, So yeah, just technology serving man, which is good, but serving man and forgetting man's naturalness, foregoing man's nature, connectedness, and ultimately going to shoot ourselves in the foot, right? Because it can't. Something will, people. I know people want to offer right and be like, oh, we can't spit out that much carbon, or or humans barely do anything to the planet. We're actually not that. We don't actually affect it that much. There's so much of the earth and so much other processes that we're only putting a small dent into polluting it or whatever. I still think that's just like a spiritually misguided concept, and so even I don't know how to talk away from that. But what I'll call you a Phyrexian here is what I'll call you. Okay, so what are we talking about? Talking about this idea in magic's a story. Okay, so I got like a website pulled up here called Mythic Spoiler, and it pretty much just has like all the sets from Magic's history. And this is a game that's been running since like 94, 95 or whatever. And there's, like I said, there's a story essentially going on with this card game the whole time. There's a running constant story happening in here. And the story, it takes place over multiple planes. That's why every single set is like a different plane that the set visits, and it's got its own sort of different rules and magic uses and blah 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 blah. And yeah, so that's what's always been excited. You wait for a new set to come out, you go to a new plane. Sometimes you revisit an old plane. Some people like going back to the same particular ones because they like the cards or the themes from that set. Like an all dragon set, or lots of dragon set, or vampires and werewolves set, or some set that's got tons of crazy wacky artifacts or whatever. So Magic's all about visiting different planes and exploring all these different worlds, right? Different realities. And one of the major kind of like running bad guys in Magic, they're called the Phyrexians. Here's some creepy pictures of them. So yeah, the Phyrexians are these like robotic blending of flesh and steel. And kind of like the Borg in a sense, they have this process by which they want to convert all life essentially into Phyrexian. And it's called completion. And yeah, they essentially invade other planes and assimilate it into their horrific nightmare Gigerian freak monster stuff. And yeah, once again, it's the concept of merging flesh and steel is that body horror stuff is kind of their shtick. Using glistening oil and the and relating to our modern thing, right? The first Phyrexian dude or guy or whatever, the guy who's pretty much behind the whole thing, his guy named is called Yawgmoth, and he was a physician. He was like a doctor that was like trying to cure people basically, or trying to cure everything or whatever. These sort of lofty immortality ideas. Think of like all those Alex Karp and Peter Thiel freaks and that other weirdo guy on I can't remember his name that's trying to do immortality stuff. But yeah, this Yawgmoth dude basically was going around and he would poison other people and do all this freaky stuff to people, and then try to reverse engineer it for science, right? Do all this unleash all these plagues on people, and then deliberately try to cure it just to like understand the plague stuff better. He's kind of guy like, yeah, I can kill 1 million people to save 1 billion people. Kind of like one of those kind of rationalizers. And so, yeah, this Yawgmoth dude, he's a bad dude. He turns into like a big giant, freaky, terrible, this is him now or whatever, I think. He's bad good. Yeah, look at some of the old Magic art. See, there's some gnarly old art. Okay? So, yeah, Phyrexians, they want to assimilate everything, and they do it with this sort of this stuff called glistening oil. If it infects you, then you essentially corrupts you over time, and you become one of them. I think we're all sort of familiar with a lot of these tropes ideas. This Borgish infection of some sort. And what am I trying to? If you can kind of catch my drift here, this idea of this progress in this guy who, and once again, Yawgmoth was like a doctor. He was, and this idea of doctor and health and curing somehow, there's a slippery slope where you kind of get in talking about, immortality and removing all death and removing all that stuff. But it's almost like removing death is almost like removing life in a sense too. You can't. It's sort of there's sort of what required for the other to sort of have any of its meaning in a sense, But glistening oil, you maybe you can kind of catch where what it kind of looks and feels like, So just imagine this is, if you go touch this stuff, you're not going to turn into a Phyrexian, but like, it's acknowledgement. It's unconcerning with this picture here. If you're like unconcerned with this, then you're probably Phyrexian already. It's like this stuff is like it's already a part of you in a metaphysics sense. Okay, so yeah, Phyrexians they want to corrupt, and well, I would say corrupt. To them it's like completing is what their word is for it. Let me see. And who's the picture? The person that I have on the thumbnail for the video is someone named Elish Norn. Where is she? because she's been so Yawgmoth has been like dead or defeated a while ago. So now they've got these like new, there was like a new leadership or whatever in like the Phyrexian faction, and the most recent kind of like, you know, in my mind, it's already a few years ago old now, but yeah, the last biggest thing that kind of happened in Magic's running story was like this mass invasion by the Phyrexians. Okay, and let me just type in her name real quick. Yeah. So in Magic's, you know, like I said, Magic is all about planes and realities and different worlds, right? And so the Phyrexians figured out how to like using the world tree, actually, from basically the Norse Sea kind of world. There was like a world tree that they used to essentially try to use it as a highway or whatever, you know, to invade all the other worlds. And so you had Phyrexians literally invading from outside of one cosmos, just like Klaga said, into another, right? It's almost like, do you see the exact same thing I'm sort of saying? And so, and Elish Norn is all about this idea of like symmetrical assimilation, right? And that, yeah, this idea of perfect order. And yeah, this is all to us, you know, freaky body horror stuff, you know. But to them, oh look, I think she got her head pulled off by Karn. But she, her idea of completion, once again, is, yeah, perfect order and symmetry, and you know, it's almost like, yeah, the removal of chaos in a sense. And you'd be like, oh, you know, doesn't quite sound that bad, but you're like, but no, then yeah, removal of chaos is removal of spontaneity, and you know, and pure order is sort of lifeless, right? That it's static, it's not moving. So once again, symmetry, perfect order, kind of reminds me of that's her vision. So that she was like one of the main bad guys, and the most recent, I say it's the most recent even though it's already a couple years old. That was like her plan. So if we go back here to the sets, and these all kind of go in from the bottom up. It goes from oldest to newest. So like this is the newest one that will come out. If we go back down, then they get older and older. But from where was it? From right here, this huge branch right here, like all this stuff from this set 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. When did this even come out? A couple years ago, I don't remember. 2023. So that's when this set was. They March of the Machine, the aftermath. So this is kind of after they defeated Elish Norn and all the Phyrexians and figured out how to like boot them off all the other realities and avoid the completion or whatever, right? Or maybe. So, like I said, we've this concept of breaking outside of one cosmos. Like I said, that Klaga's is, you know, this idea of this nasty crap is some other weird inversion of humanity's aspect or whatever, or some part of our rational thought that causes this stuff to happen is, yeah, from some other alien force maybe or something, right? Maybe alien in this sense, okay? And so, Phyrexians invading everything. They get him to stop. And yeah, and this is like the last of like the big running story here. You know, they had this big giant thing with all the different sets, sort of telling this massive story of the Phyrexians invading and blah 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 blah. And if we go back to let me see, if you go back to this menu here, so that was this set right here, and since then, you know, Magic has gotten a little different. In case you don't know. What has happened with Magic the Gathering is that Magic used to just be Magic the Gathering. Unique characters, unique places, and original IP, and all these characters that were associated with Magic only. Well, Magic, since it's owned by Hasbro, is kind of sold out. I'll say it. It's kind of sold out in a sense, and that now they do Magic sets with other IPs. So if we scroll up here, we have a whole section now for Universes Beyond, is what it's called. So just around this time, when things were starting to change, around over here, just after the Phyrexian story was over, we started getting these Universes Beyond sets. And the first one they started to do was like Dungeons and Dragons. Dungeons and Dragons Universes Beyond set was the first one they did. And like, that doesn't really break canon at all. It's like I could totally see Forgotten Realms or Faerun or whatever that D&D is as a world for Magic. I don't think that really breaks any it doesn't break headcanon. It's like, oh, okay, I could totally see that happening, right? No infringement there as far as sort of breaking the flavor or theme of Magic, right? So they did 2 sets in D&D, that's fine. And then they did some Commander sets with Warhammer. And Warhammer's pretty cool. I've never played Warhammer or anything like that, but most people, were starting to get a little hesitant, right? They were like, well, I don't know. Maybe this is someone's trying to post in here. Maybe there's I got kids coming in here. Maybe there's people, I'm not super familiar with Warhammer, but it's still kind of high fantasy in a sense. It's a little futuristic. Magic has some aspects of that. It's a little more fantasy than sci-fi, but it does kind of blend a little bit, especially some of the old ones here. But some people started to get a little nervous, all right? And like, Warhammer, like, it's not quite Magic, but all right, I guess it's okay, so let's keep going. Then they did some Lord of the Rings. Once again, that's a major IP. Lord of the Rings, still kind of fantasy. So it still kind of works with Magic the Gathering as well, but it's not quite the same. And it's still a little off from Magic. It still kind of works because it's still fantasy, and it's not a huge leap of rational, having to work around the different themes or whatever, right? But yeah, Lord of the Rings, everyone liked this set. They did a bunch of gimmicky stuff where they had like some printing of like the One Ring, and like Post Malone bought her for like $1 billion or whatever. I'm making that number up, but for a lot of money. But this set did pretty well. Lord of the Rings and Magic the Gathering, right? It's like, okay, well, it's fine, whatever. And it's one thing if they just like did like their own little side prints, like, oh, here's like a little side product that we did Lord of the Rings for, but it's not going to be part of like our main rulings or whatever with how we do the regular Magic stuff, right? The stuff that y'all have known and loved forever. Well, let's keep going, right? Once again, these other universes are now invading Magic the Gathering's universe, right? The Phyrexians were basically opened up a portal where everything was invading everything else and trying to make everything the same, kind of, right? They're trying to assimilate it and make it all similar. And then we started to get some other ones. They started doing they did a Fallout Commander decks, and it's like, well, this is not Magic at all. This is like the first, I guess you could say this is like the first IP done in Magic, maybe, that's basically set on Earth. It's like set on our world, which is like, there's never been like just like, oh, this is Earth, like on Magic. No, it was always some fantasy, made up name, right? These are Commander decks, and so this is still not part of like, there's different ways you play Magic, and Commander is a very much more quote unquote casual one, and people can do more wacky stuff and make up their own cards, and it's more friendly to that sort of atmosphere. So here's like, official printings of outside of the Magic the Gathering's universe, and so now I'm playing, like, I've got my Eben Dragon card, right? Now I'm sitting across the table with someone who's playing Dogmeat Everloyal, who's a character from Fallout. Great character, whatever, that's fine, but it's not a Magic the Gathering character. It's just kind of, now it's starting to get a little weird. Now I've gotten Aragorn, and I've gotten a Warhammer dude on the table with this dog here. And people could already do that, make that about Magic anyway, that you could have this Eldrazi Titan, this crazy giant monster, and get killed by like 13 squirrel tokens or something, right? So Magic has its own ironies in that sense, but it's like, once again, you see this weird melding of universes here, okay? And I'll talk about the art style and the art direction as well too. All this is probably gonna, see how most of this looks very samey. At least it's like, it's like all done by like the same artist. Like it seems like it's one sort of the same. It's it's all this sort of vague, not quite all the way 3D, but all not. I don't know. It's just all looks the same to me. And I'll show you what I mean by the old Magic the Gathering art too, right? Once again, did I already close it? I already closed Eben Dragon. But art direction aside, we'll get to that in a minute because that is also part of this argument. And then we started to get stuff like Doctor Who magic, and I don't give two hoots about Doctor Who. I bet some people in the audience like Doctor Who. That is not my cup of tea, pun intended. But yeah, that is the British joke there. Yeah, I did not touch these at all. I was like, nope, this is definitely outside of what magic is, in my mind. And, people, Brady, you just don't like it because you don't like Doctor Who. It's like, well, sure, that's true. I liked Fallout. I'm not going to get I just told you I'm not going to get those cards either. It's still breaking my immersion of magic. It's still kind of making it a little strange to me. I've got Doctor Who and, and a Warhammer dude versus someone else across the table with dog meat from Fallout and Eowyn from Lord of the Rings, okay? And once again, it's different since magic was already a world that was based on like hopping realities, and you're a wizard that summons beings and stuff from other realities. Those are what your cards are. That'll kind of make sense, but like Doctor Who does kind of get to give credit where credit's due. That he's kind of a world where you hop between realities and dimensions, so I guess we can kind of give him a little bit of a pass being able to sort of meld with this world. But it's still just like, I don't know, like I don't want Yawgmoth facing against Doctor Who. Like that's kind of lame to me. Am I just a pessimist? Sure, whatever. But let's keep going because it gets worse for us Magic players. And then for me, I also didn't like this either. Final Fantasy, super, super successful set. Once again, it's got fantasy in the name, right? It's kind of fantasy-ish, just like Magic is. But Final Fantasy, like, come on, and to me, I was like, no, like Magic is dead finally. And like, I don't know, I just abhor seeing all these other IPs, these other universes that are not Magic's own contained universe in a sense, bleeding into Magic. It's like they're not having to play with, there's no Magic characters showing up in Final Fantasy games, are there? No. How come it's showing up in my game? How come I have to look at this other stuff? Like I didn't want to play Final Fantasy, so now I got Chocobo and I got Pippin and Frodo versus Yawgmoth and all this smorgasbord Doctor Who number 13 or whatever. It's just like it's not Magic anymore, Like it's just not the same sort of consistency that it was, okay? And here's where we start getting where people are really, really, at least the old guard, are kind of dropping off. And that's when we started to get announcements for Spider-Man and then eventually Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and also some Marvel superhero set. And so now we've gone full-blown corporate sellout. So let's look at the Spider-Man set because I could talk about this for a minute too. So once again, it used to be, maybe, Doctor Who, it's all right, reality hopping, it's kind of fantasy-ish, set on Earth, that's kind of stinks, but okay. Lord of the Rings and Dungeons and Dragons, both fantasy. Maybe Dungeons and Dragons is a little more adjacent to Magic the Gathering as far as, mixing stuff, but Spider-Man, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, that's two sets we got set in New York now, and they came out relatively close to one another, okay? Is this even out yet? This is not out yet. But let's okay. So we went to Spider-Man. So now I got Spider-Man and Doctor Who versus Dogmeat and Chocobo, and it's just like this is just not Magic anymore. And I'm really just trying not to just go on this complaint about Magic because I'm talking about ultimately what am I talking about? This stuff was what I'm trying to get to. Corporate slop. That's what I'm talking about. Because the Spider-Man set was pretty lame, and I'm trying to think of. I'm not sure if any of these were caught with AI generated art, but once again, they all look pretty samey. It just looks like new corporate age art. This one was. I didn't. Sorry, guy. Whoever drew. If you watch my channel, person who drew UK Spider-Man. But yeah, some about this composition is just very awkward to me. Just not. I don't know. It's not this old style of Magic that we all kind of fell in love with. And these are some new cards. Let me find like an old. Any of them. pulled up here anywhere. Dang. All right, I'll minimize here in a second, and let me pull up another instance of Scryfall as I try to show you some. Oh, I'll just go to the old one. Let me just go to the old Mythic, and we'll just look at one of the other sets. So yeah, we were on the Spider-Man set. Poor Spider-Man UK. Alan Morris. Don't dox this artist, but don't. But I guess I'm on record here for disliking this art card. But it's just like, I don't know. It's just kind of there. It's not exciting. It's just a UK Spider-Man. He's just doing a thing. And whereas if we talk about some old Magic sets, okay. So let me zoom out. So let's scroll down to before maybe it changed like that. And for instance, yeah, should I just go to one of these Phyrexian sets or whatever? Which I don't even remember quite what they are. Here, let's go to this new Phyrexian one. Like, boom. Yeah. Open this in a new tab for us. Yikes. See, you see where there's kind of like a difference? This is like one of the big, it's like Elish Norton's brother or whatever, I don't know. Yeah, we're going from this to, oh, my bad, to this. Corporate IP slop, in my mind, from original IP, from characters that have endured in Magic since their introduction, right? And here's the old Elish Norton here. Oh, look at that! Oh, cool. It's one where they have written in Phyrexian language. So once again, Elish Norton is all about assimilation and orderliness and sort of this sort of overly sanitized cleanliness to where it's like a hostile cleanliness, if you get my drift. And yeah, I just kind of see that energy in this like new art style, where everything's just kind of I gotta show some older art too, right? And yeah, now they've even got like comic book stuff just slapped onto Magic cards, like this doesn't look anything like what this is. Even this, when it's got its crazy alternate version, it still makes a lot more sense. The person who did this art actually does tons of stuff. I didn't know that. He does like half this. Dude, this person who does the art for Massacre Worm does like every single freaking portrait in League of Legends, basically, which is wild to me. But you see, once again, so here's the new Spider-Man set, and you see just what I'm talking about, just this very clean art style where it's just kind of like basic comic booky. None of them really, I don't know, like stand out. Like this guy's kind of cool looking, but I don't know what any of his abilities have to do with this character at all. He's just kind of cool looking. But of course, it's Venom. Like anything Venom looking is gonna be neat. But you see, I don't know, just it's very just, I don't know, tame. It's very by the book. And whereas if we go through some of the old Magic art, right? Yo, what is this? You see this thing? Look at it's like its face is like coming out of its chest or whatever. See, Exhibit A, which Exhibit A, Exhibit B. Oh, bad example. Just look, just blech. Oh. Subway train card. Wow. I'm so enticed to play this game now compared to old Magic. Oops, my bad. Old Magic. Brutalizer Exarch. Like look at this thing. So gnarly. Who does this? Mark Zug. Thank you, Mark Zug. See, very tame. Very corporate. I don't know how else to explain it. Whereas Magic used to, you used to get, oh, look, there's that glistening oil card I was showing you earlier. Where Magic used to, oh, look at this. You get different artists to, you get commissioned for different pieces, right? Phyrexian Unlife. You see? You see what I'm talking? Phyrexian Unlife. We're gonna get to this picture in a second. Phyrexian Unlife. You see, it's like clean. It's so sanitized. It's got no life. It's Phyrexian Unlife. You see? Let me see what else. Some other old Magic art that we're going through here. Especially some of these like freaky ones. Dude, Magic was so gnarly back in the day. And there's a style of gameplay now called like what Magic. What is it called? Oh, is it called pre-modern? Pre-modern Magic, and that's where you just play with like old cards. It's like only cards before 2015 or 16 or whatever the year is, and that sounds pretty cool. Because yeah, I want to play with only this kind of stuff. Thank you, Stephen Belladin, for your services, dude. This old Magic stuff is so gnarly. All right, so yeah, once again, corporate slap. Phyrexian Unlifed. Look, here's a Magic card with just a guy in a space outfit. Boring. All right, so hopefully I'm kind of driving this point home to y'all. Yeah, Magic. Just take a picture. Take a look at this. These kind of different cards here, and how I don't know, it still looks cohesive in a sense. They got great art direction here. I don't know, just the shadows and the griminess to this. Oh man, I'm screwing up my stuff for y'all. My bad. Scroll up to the regular cards to this. It's just like Spider-Man. This kind of was trying to get gross, but Venom, like, and in some other thing, like, this Venom would be like, he'd be like scything this dude in half or something, There's this Venom here and this Venom versus, who are you more afraid of? Venom Eddie Brock, or are you more afraid of, where do you go? Phyrexian Obliterator. You see? Anyway, thank you, Todd Lockwood, for your services. Oh, I didn't even realize I got a bunch of comments over here. They did a whole set of articles in the different factions of New Phyrexia, and that was super interesting. It would be great material for a Dungeons & Dragons campaign, yeah. I get it, but I kind of like the 40k set, and that's the only one outside of Magic that I thought fits. No lie, I have the because what's the other one? The Necrons. Yeah, they look pretty cool, and my buddy is really big into 40k. So a while ago, we each got one of those to play against each other. And although I may just sell it because it's worth a lot of money, so I might just pawn it off. Still can't believe they made a whole language for Phyrexians, right? The innate human desire to tell stories know no bounds. Agreed. Until the next guy just copy pastes everyone else's stories. Dang it, Kaldheim was 2017. Yeah, that's wild. Kaldheim, yeah, bro. I have what's his name? An Aldrun deck, the Odin guy, because Odin's a big thing around my channel. So yeah, back to the argument that Magic has been invaded, just like the in Magic universe was, by other IPs. So yeah, everyone was kind of ticked off at the Spider-Man set. It didn't sell so well, and then they announced and told us they're going to make some Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle cards. Once again, these look exactly like the Spider-Man cards, just corporate sameness. And all right, and then I pulled this card up earlier. Okay, so yeah, they made some land cards, and they made them into pizza, right? Because Ninja Turtle's all about pizza or whatever. This one looks pretty. I'm really starting to wonder if some of these are AI generated, and maybe that was already confirmed. So yeah, the mountain card with pizza. This is so horrendous to me. And we're talking about, and I already explained at the top, right, that using generated AI stuff uses real natural resources, right? And let alone also spits out into the air tons of micro crazy particulate particles that pollute people and blanket everything, and it's natural. It's death fog, but they also uses up tons of water in order to cool the GPUs, right? So hence increased prices, increased electricity prices, water prices, and then then you get this. And I've seen people analyze this, and people are wondering if it is maybe a AI generated art. Although I guess there are JITAs, because people are wondering if because what is it, Raphael? Is he the red one? He's usually got those little ninja swords that got like the two prongs that kind of come up here, right? I guess it's called a JITA. I don't know if there's a different name for the one that has the three prongs, and there's one that's just got the two. And so maybe this is one of those that's just got the two. But usually, you'd expect this. There should be another symmetrical side of this sharp here to the other side over here, but it's not doing that. And something about the composition is just kind of strange with this one. I think one of these other ones I pulled up. Look, like here. Look how this. You see how the cheese. If we zoom in here, you see how this cheese just kind of like fades into color in the wood. And you see the wood right here, it almost looks like it wants to be a finger off of the green of the hand right here. And I'm just seeing this now, but I've played around with these AI generators before when they were first coming out, so I've kind of seen how they work and how they mix stuff up. And dude, I bet this was an AI generated piece. I wouldn't be surprised. The way it's not cheese on it. Why is it just fading into the color here? It should just be a clear line like this is trying to do right here. But it's not doing that here. And then it looks like this piece of wood is almost wanted to make one of his fingers or something. And it's just like, what is he eating on? Is this a table he's eating on? So I see the rest of the pizza here, okay. But is this like the edge of the table? But then like, what's going on here with this piece of wood? Why is this cheese like turning into like brown sludge right here? Something's kind of off with this picture. That's why they didn't put their own name. Something's off about this picture. Now, I think for, once again, here's a full art card for some pizza. Do we have any of the full arts for some of the other sets? We can even just go to the, this one? I think they have them here. Yeah, even the new Magic sets still just kind of look a lot tamer than they did back in the day. Let's go to the full art so I can just... yes. Yeah, do you want to... Okay, this, even... It's a little extra, but you going to play with this, or you want to play with this? What's going on with here? It's, I didn't know... Why is the Ninja Turtle, he's like... It's like orange here. Oh, is this one... Maybe it's supposed to be the rat dude. I forget his name. Maybe that's his hand instead, and that's not a Ninja Turtle's hand? Because the other Ninja Turtles seem to have, like, he's got, like, 3 fingers here. He's got 3 fingers here, so that must be the rat dude, their mentor, maybe. That's what it's supposed to be. What is this, like a pizza with, like, blueberries on this? Olives? What is this? What is this fruit addition? I don't know what this is. Some tofu? I don't know what's going on here. Same person did the other ones. Now, some of these artists out here, they have been caught. I don't know which ones have. They have been caught admitting now that they did use AI to generate the art, which is kind of sad because, once again, back in the day. Oh, this is not back in the day. Old art. I don't know. Something about the old art. A lot gnarlier. Phyrexian Obliterator. Now, some of the artists for... if not for that set, I think for Spider-Man set 2 and some of the newer sets, which I'll talk about in a second too. Avatar: Last Airbender. Some of these cards in here, I really hate how they look. I'm not gonna get any of this set either, but I don't know. I just hate this stupid anime look. I mean, anime's fine. Like, don't get me wrong, but like, I don't want to see it on a Magic card. Like, it just breaks all immersion for me. And once again, the whole point is that I'm saying that. In Magic's world, Elishanorn and the Phyrexians invaded, and now other IPs are doing it to Magic too, and they're making everything this samey nonsense. Soulless Phyrexian unlife. Okay. And yeah, people were... I'm trying to find this one Avatar card that I really that I think looks terrible. What is it? It's what's her face? The earth bending chick. I don't remember her name. Tao. There he is. Toph. This one looks really AI generated to me too. I think the person even admitted this one might be a little was generated and then just cleaned up or something, and like, you know, you can kind of just tell in the face to me. So, magic invaded by Phyrexians, and it's happening in our own real life. Okay, and if I could relate to even our own cultures. Okay, here, because you might see these sorts of concepts floating around here, where I think, modernity, this sort of idea of Phyrexian looking stuff too, and what happened with how embrace tradition, how things used to look. I don't think this is even the version I like. I thought this contrast is good enough. Old versus modern. I don't know, this more organic style, this more like, I don't know, it's a more human style where this silicon and steel and this transhumanism idea and concept, right, of wanting to merge man and robot, I think is just a very Phyrexian concept to me. That's not even like, I should have just pulled up what I kind of have as the thumbnail, just showing old architecture and old buildings and concepts and houses compared to, how we make our houses today, that nothing is actually made to last if you think about it, we just don't, everything's done as cheaply as quickly as possible for the most part. And I think that there's sort of ramifications for doing that in a sense, and how do we properly measure the overall utility or happiness gained from our processes or whatever. Let's see. But even just looking at some of these ideas, right? The way that modern buildings sort of choke up everything and not made of other natural materials. I don't know. It's and the way that we've lost the molding and the small touches of things, Like this is even look at this picture right here. It's almost like the exact. You don't even see my clicker. There it is. You can look. It's even like here's the old world, and then here's like this Phyrexian building like invading it or something. It's like the exact thing I'm talking about. Yep. Exactly what Andrew's saying here. I don't know why WotC tried to do anything different. They're losing so many players by turning to AI and the universes beyond. Maybe they'll get some signals here that since the Spider-Man set's been over underwhelming, and I think I hope the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and the Marvel set, they all just flop. Even though, I've seen it work. My brother-in-law did get into playing Magic, and he just has got one of the Tarkir Commander decks now because he wanted to play. He's like, oh, he really loves Spider-Man, so he wouldn't, got some packs and. Got like the foundation set, so now we play Magic together occasionally now that he's gotten into it because of the Spider-Man set. So it's like, I don't know, maybe it kind of worked, but going back to that argument, okay, about even just the basic, even the magic sets themselves, I haven't touched any of these things in a while. We did get some Tarkir Dragonscorn with my buddies, but. Yeah, once again, even if I click on this, it's still just going to be, I don't know, it doesn't look, it's still very clean, although, I do like this Rakshasa art. But it's still kind of tame, maybe in a sense, to the old cards. Still better than anything from Avatar. And so, I won't complain about Dragonstorm, but some of these other sets that I know people have talked about that they didn't like is that they're turning into what are called like hat sets, and that even if we go to some new set, right, it's something about the set is not. It's like, oh, our characters today are in the cowboy world, so they're all just gonna wear cowboy hats today, and then oh, they're gonna go to the race car world, so everyone's just gonna be driving cars everywhere. It's like Mario Kart. Oh, look, your favorite Magic cars or driving cars, or I don't know what's another one that was a good one. Oh, this one, I guess. Oh, what if it's Clue with magic, right? There goes back to that Hasbro connection. It's like, oh yeah, you're playing Clue but with magic or something, you know? It's like they're all cluing about. And it's not this like organic world that they have anymore. It's even if like we go back to Innistrad, for example, very famous set. Innistrad, some of the greatest Magic cards of all time come from this set, and it's a world that's like, oh, it's like the horror world, you know? It's got zombies and werewolves and vampires, right? But you know, there's like this unique story about how it's all kind of weaved together in a sense, you know. And so Innistrad does feel like its very own unique take on the werewolf and the vampire situation, and angels are in there too. It's like it's super cool. And how humans also are a very big theme in the set as well, and how humans interplay with all that stuff, all these terrible horror crap. But yeah, the new sets, they just don't have that same originality. It's just like, oh, just throw them in the race car world. Now they drive race cars, and oh look, they're solving clues now because they're in the clue world. It's not this like organic exploration of those themes and weaving them into a new way or something, you know. And yeah, maybe I should pull up old Lorwyn and new Lorwyn would be a good showing the different art styles over time, right? So, oh yeah, OG Planeswalkers. Okay, so old Lorwyn was about like goblins and elves and giants and Kithkin and these like different, very British Isles and types of Northern European folklore things, you know. And yeah, and Lorwyn at one point of the day, they've got their like night versions, and I'm sorry, day versions, and then when it turns to night, it turns into Shadowmoor, and then they've got these other versions of themselves. But yeah, just taking a look at the art direction of some of this stuff. Oh man, I love these goblin cards so much. Bogart Birthright. It's like, look at this like warded. Is this a Wayne Reynolds? No, Ralph Horsley. Yeah, it's a goblin. It's got all these baby goblins on top of it. It's just like bursting with theme and flavor, and it's so good. I love this card. I have this in a Infinite Goblin deck as a card. Anyway, and so yeah, old Lorwyn, right? Exhibit A. You can kind of take it. Maybe I should pull up one of the other races here. I just like looking at the goblin cards so dang much. But the elves in here are pretty cool too. I'm trying to see if there's a really cool one. Oh, is that a Wayne Reynolds? People don't like Wayne Reynolds all the time, but I really like him. He does that deck I keep showing. He does my favorite version of Balthor the Defiled that does this deck. But yeah, I don't know. Like, look at this old art. And I feel like old Lorwyn is very Wayne and Jesper Eisling ish, you know. Those guys are the best. And so old Lorwyn, kind of get my drift. And even if you kind of got an idea of the set as we were kind of scrolling along, you know, I don't know, it just looks magical. It looks alive. And let's go to new Lorwyn. We haven't seen all the cards yet, but hey, look, it looks kind of like to me. You know, this is kind of getting to some of the old style here. This one kind of looks kind of cool. This one looks really cool. So I see some cool art in here. So this set hasn't released yet. Now this one's kind of dangerous at being samey. This Sig doesn't look like anything like the other Sig. Look, he just looks like a regular old merfolk. She just looks like a fire person dancing around some water, I guess. That's why she got the water in here. Here, let me pull up. Now I gotta do it. We gotta look at compare the other two. Let me pull up another thing of Scryfall. Sig. Yeah, both of these are just way cooler. Yeah, it doesn't make him like look like anything. He looks like all the other ones. So yeah, here we go. We got new Sig. Just kind of, yeah, I'm not sure if I really get what he's doing here. He's got a little, like his little whisker beard things here, mustache. And then we got the old Sig. And this is, yeah, one of his different versions. And here's the other one, where he's the Shadowmoor side. But yeah, I just like the old painted versions of things, you know. And this one actually still looks kind of painted, but it's definitely like a digital painted version. I don't know. Oh wow, I really like this background that he's got in here. Yeah, how he's really like your river guide. Yeah, you can like just really tell that the whole art even explains his name. Oh, it's so cool. And he's got a more unique design. He's like a fish guy with hair actually. And then here, now he's just look, he's got all these extra things on his head now. Oh no, those are still there. I'm sorry. But yeah, the hair. Like, is that hair there? I don't know if it looks. They want to make it look more like it's part of his, you know, fins or whatever, you know. Yeah. All right, let me close these out as I clean up all these billions of tabs. Oh yeah, hold on. Yeah. Ah, so cool. Oops. Yeah, what the heck? Growing trees out of his head? Is that one of the giants? Man, super cool. All right. So yeah, even compared to my argument being I didn't pull up the other Ashling, but the original Ashling is Wayne Reynolds again, right? I think. Should we pull up that one? Oh, that was gonna get to my wrap up there. So yeah, AI generated art, samey art, in all this sort of stuff, right? And so yeah. But let me close this one out. Let's see. What was my last final point about some of this stuff, right? So yeah, we've been talking about the not only was Magic's universe itself, right? They actually had a part of a story where the Phyrexians were invading Magic's world. They were about to win and complete everything, and they maybe finally managed to beat them out. And that's where I'll take this in a second. And then lo and behold, all of a sudden, Magic starts getting even more blatantly samey, and even having its own universe invaded by other corporate Phyrexian unlifed stuff. And no hate on Warhammer, no hate on Dungeons and Dragons sets. I love these sets a lot. But they're not Magic, right? And that's just ultimately like, what are we losing when we decide to not keep it self-contained and open it up the doors, right? And you know, now you're playing Pig Spider-Man versus Chocobo versus, you know, pizza train station artifact cards. You know, it's just, yeah, it's not the same. It's lost its own life. And like I said at the top, where I mentioned, you know, Clog is saying that, yeah, some other force has invaded our cosmos that is making us turn into this samey corporate stuff everywhere. And I don't know if you've ever been to China or not, and some of this is not to hate on them or anything, but and this is really more of like a scheme that they got going on there. But if you've ever been to China, and it's gonna happen here too. I'm trying to think of there's not gonna be any pictures here. But one time when I was in China, we were on a train and we were going along. This is kind of what it looks like. Yeah, all cities look alike. What's behind China's monotonous urban landscape? This kind of picture here. Yeah, I remember looking out the window on the train, and as far as the eye could see, all you would see are these buildings, like all these high-rise apartment buildings stacked up close to one another. And apparently, yeah, they're not built very well, and they're falling down or whatever. But you see what I'm saying? Like, our realm is being invaded, and like I said, like a bunch of these apparently are also empty or whatever. So it's literally like a giant scheme that these, money laundering and building all these stupid buildings that no one even lives in. But that's even more of a waste. That's even more of a waste than how we extract all these elements and resources from the earth, and then we don't even use it efficiently, right? We're just slapping all this stuff up here and dumping stuff into the water as we go about making all the steel to do it and to truck it around or whatever, right? And I'm not hating on people that do those jobs or whatever. I'm just saying, like, yo, we should take a look around here and see what's going on. And yeah, just question a little harder about some of that stuff, just take your time, just like with an old Magic set, with all these old Magic sets, they used to take quite a while to test them out and release them very slowly and only do a couple a year. And now they just they're trying to just print money. They're just like firing that stuff out there at a rapid pace. That's what a lot of us have sort of been irked about is, the speed and the pace at which they release stuff and don't test the cards, and that they print out busted cards. It just makes things unfun. Because you've got just OP card that if you just play the card, you win the game. Well, that's not fun. And so, yeah, and this idea of the Phyrexian glistening oil, this idea that it corrupts things or whatever. You might have heard this old story. British UFO investigator found dead after vomiting black liquid. And there's been in the conspiracy world, and I don't have really much to go off of here today. But yeah, this black goo, kind of this assimilated, maybe nanotechnology or alien knows what's it stuff or whatever. It's just kind of like in this realm of my argument here that maybe the Phyrexians are maybe they're actually already here. And, once again, I think it's ironic, or I'm sorry, not ironic, but on point when the main Phyrexian dude himself was basically this eugenicist dude trying to, cure life by basically sanitizing the life out of it, preserving it in formaldehyde or some type of horrific thing. And that he took control of the medical spheres and the military spheres during his coup or whatever role he lived in or something. So I think that is pretty much. Oh well, what's our way out? Well, apparently there was this old Magic character that they made decks around during when a lot of this stuff was kind of going on, the sets, and they had this old character from OG Magic days called Commodore Guff. And I guess during one of these Phyrexian problems or something like that, he basically sacrificed himself, and he was a dude that had an infinite library or something like that, and he was super smart, and he had to try to find a way to basically get them, help them solve this problem. And this card that they had, part of his set that they did, Guff Rewrites History. So that's him in here, and this art's kind of telling the story here. And yeah, I guess the way the story goes is that he had some book or whatever that and he it tells the history of everything and what's going to happen, and he somehow was able to change it. And it reminds me a lot of the if you've watched the all the Avengers movie, and you got Doctor Strange, who kind of does that gamble of he's I looked at all the different possibilities, and there's only one possibility kind of out of this situation where Thanos wins, and it's going to look like we're going to lose basically, but it'll work out. I feel like this is kind of what this is hearkening to, although Guff Rewrites History, this event they wrote about in some novel in the early 2000s or whatever. But yeah, basically this idea of that maybe the seeds were kind of sown in the destruction, maybe, and that there's a sort of meta-ness to the Phyrexians' defeat or something like that. I'm kind of always it's kind of a Deus Ex Machina thing, right? That something outside of the cosmos, just like it was also invaded, that some other force even outside that further pulled back even further out of that cosmos has also got the things in motion to make sure that good wins out in the end or something. Has that got to do with the storytelling itself or something along those lines? Just got to tell better stories and get people activated into thinking about these things a little deeper. And will it fix magic? I don't know. But let me take up the comments here before we call it a Christmas Eve done here. Tarkir went hard. Heck yeah. Just made it to Valdek. Dude, heck, did you make the commander one, or did you make the basic one? What's his name? Arbiter, and what's the other guy's one? I have both of them, but one's I don't know which one to make the bigger deck out of. When they used to make up stories and go with the set, actually, yeah. I get what you mean with the goblin looks scarier than most of what's in the Dustborn set. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Especially something that was trying to purport it being a body horror. So, with that all said in mind, I don't want to leave you here with this black sludge, glistening oil Christmas picture, And, maybe I don't want to look at it with rose-colored glasses. Maybe the ancient past is no better than our modern cities and that they're all just, the same reflection, right? This version here is just as, totalitarian as, like, this down here. And that's where Cloggis would go, like, yeah, that's where we need to go Pulaski and we need to go Archaic or something, not, we need to go past ancient Greek, or whatever. So I don't know what the real answer is. But, yeah, this idea of corporate slop, invading magic everywhere, making it all samey. I think it's also part of the same phenomenon of what we see today in our architecture, what we just see today in our music and some of that stuff, right? Just regurgitated pop beats and the same chords over and over again. You've probably heard the meme about that the line "cold beer" is in like every single modern country music. And I saw that there's a guy who made a song, and it's nothing but samples of the words "cold beer" from like every single other country song out there. It's super hilarious. But I think it's part of the same thing or phenomena that we're talking about and discussing here today. But yeah, don't forget that. Let me pull it up again in case some of y'all hopped on late. Because we've got some actual Magic players in here, which is awesome. That's what I wanted, because at the top of the stream, I definitely connected Magic to some of the other stuff I talk around on the channel, which is anything to do with Shakespeare and conspiracy-related Shakespeare stuff. And so, yeah, I played Magic, but I've been completing my Black Dragon deck. I was just trying to get every single rare Black Dragon in Magic, and I was like, all right, got to get this old card here that sucks. All right, we're going to get it anyway. And then I was like, oh, well, we have this other version here, right? So I clicked on this, and then boom. Here's a flavor text from a William Shakespeare quote on a Magic card. And this is specifically at the top. If you go back and listen, I was saying that I was specifically studying Troilus and Cressida by Shakespeare. And there's also another playwright, contemporary, called Thomas Dekker, who also wrote his own version of Troilus and Cressida. So we were talking about that. And then I found this card in the middle of like doing all that research. And I was like, what the heck? I've never seen a Magic card with flavor text outside of Magic, let alone something from Shakespeare. So now I have this card in this deck right here. So if that is all the questions and comments we have today, yeah, y'all let me know if y'all have any other thoughts about this Phyrexian Unlife. If y'all like that, my long-winded claim on that sort of thing. That's just, I was complaining about how every single intersection in America just now looks like the same McDonald's, Chipotle, Verizon Wireless, and Floor and Decor or whatever. Every single spot, And so yeah, I just fear losing all of this sort of spontaneity, that the over orderliness of things, and the cold hard steel and eventual transhumanism of merging flesh and steel is such a Phyrexian concept. And it's all done in the name of helping you and healing you and all that stuff, right? I just clicked them away. Which is such a Yawgmothian concept, the original Phyrexian dude, right? He was a guy who was all about, quote unquote, healing everything and just controlling everything. So, just like Cloggis says, has something invaded outside of our cosmos? Is something a part now of the human will that works against itself, that almost that sows its own, that tries to undermine it every turn? I don't know. Y'all let me know. Give me some thoughts here. Give me some of your ponderings before we'll call it a Christmas stream or a Christmas Eve stream over here. And so as you go into the new world, make sure you work against new Phyrexia, because we don't want Phyrexia here on this planet either, because it's getting into our art, it's getting into our writing, it's getting into the song making. What if there's some new pop song that comes out and you don't even know that it was actually AI generated, but it got up to the top of the charts or whatever? Pretty scary stuff. Yeah, it's a Vol deck. Anything to do with milling, anything to do with delving or flashback or recursion, like that's what, yeah, mono black dragon deck. All I do is just try to like dump as many black dragons into the graveyard as possible, and then get them all at the same time, and that's all it does. All will be one, and it looks like slop. Yes, sir. Exactly. Yeah, all will be one is the Elish Norn or Phyrexian sort of tagline, right? And it all looks like slop, unfortunately. So yeah, work against that. Make sure you're using counters. Use your counter spells against that AI slop there. Y'all call it out and call them judges and be like, yo, or something. I don't know. But yeah, thank y'all so much for hanging around this stream today. I usually do streams every single Wednesday talking about random stuff in pop culture and Shakespeare and conspiracy stuff. And so, yeah, if you like any of it, go check out my other streams. My Draconian Secrets one was pretty cool, talking about the etymology of dragon and how it means to watch and what would that actually mean for anything. I have another wacky one on One Piece, which is a show I don't really watch at all, but I have a wacky one on One Piece I'm going to do where I'll connect some pirate lore stuff to One Piece. And so, yeah, be on the lookout for that. That might be the first one I do in the new year if I don't get to do it next Wednesday, because it'll be New Year's Eve and I'll be out of town. But I might try to hop on and do something because I like walking through all this stuff. But if we don't have any other questions, I'll probably call the stream there today. And so, yeah, go check out all the other work. Go check out all my links down below. I've got essays on Substack and whatnot, and a Patreon if you'd like to come support us. One-time donation on Patreon will get you lifetime Discord access so you can come hang out with us in real time and help support me and bring all these sort of wacky thoughts to you. But if that is all, I don't think I see anybody else ask anything right here. But, yeah, thank you all so much for hopping on today and hanging out with me. Thank you all to my the channel members and Patreon supporters and Substack supporters. I appreciate you all. Have a very Merry Christmas. Happy Solstice. And as always, Nullius in Verba, everyone.